अस्सलामुअलैकुम। तो मेरे ख्याल से हम लाइव आ चुके हैं। टेलविंड CSS बेस 7 के साथ मोबिलाइजेशन वेलकम है जी आप लोगों का। पता नहीं आवाज़ भी सही आ रही है कि नहीं अभी, लेकिन जो भी है हम तो अपना काम कर रहे हैं भाई। आवाज़ आए ना आए, कोई आए ना आए, कोई देखे ना देखे, शब्बीर काम तो करेगा ना। तो हम थे कोड डैम पे टेलविंड CSS का। आई थिंक ये हमारा आज आखिरी दिन होगा, 7वां दिन जो इसमें हम पूरी तरह से आज टेलविंड ख़त्म कर देंगे। और ये हमारी इस जर्नी का जो है ना आखिरी डे, शायद ये आखिरी डे ही साबित हो। यहाँ पे है हमारा रिज्यूम। क्या हो गया? लेवल 10 हो गया हमारा वैसे हीट। ये इसको ना खोल दे रिएक्ट को, इसी को खोल। देखा ना, ये आप टाइम देख रहे हैं और इस टाइम फिर आवाज़ें भी सुन रहे हैं, तो सुकून नहीं है यहाँ पे। हमारे घर में बच्चे हैं तो इसलिए ज़रा
Hey everyone, welcome back. And in this video, we're taking a look at how to build a simple sort of carousel in CSS with Tailwind, which is not exactly a carousel because it will lack controls and stuff, because we need layers for that, but mostly a nice widget which will snap itself a new edition of scroll.
शेडो कर रहे हैं, शेडो।
Hey everyone, welcome back. And in this video, let's talk about shadows in Tailwind, which was being awaited for a long time. And finally, the support for shadows is here, and the color shadows, I should mean, because the regular shadow, which was just the black shadow, was already there. But now you can have colored shadows with Tailwind, and this is awesome. Let's try to create a button like this in our code playground over here. So I'm going to go ahead and write something like, this is the best programming website. You should get a pro account, right? And it seems like it's just too much text, but it's fine. So I'm going to go ahead and now create a button which would say subscribe via Stripe, something like that. And this would be our subscription button. But right now you can see that it does not look really fancy. So we're going to start building this button over here. So I'm going to walk you through with the example of how it is done on the main side, the Tailwind side. So it's going to need a little bit of padding on the x-axis and on the y-axis. So you can see we have given it, roughly like 12 pixels, assuming that my device is working perfectly fine. So it's 12 pixel padding in the x direction and 8 pixel on the y direction, or rather we should just say 3 units and 2 units. Then we have to give it a background color as well. Let's give it an indigo as the color, and BG indigo 500 as the opacity. We need the text to be white, and we need a little bit of border around this as well, border radius, right? Which is what we call in CSS. In Tailwind, it is just all rounded, right? And rounded can give your borders a little bit of rounded, but you can also increase the intensity of rounded by having a dash and then LG or MD or SM, these sort of modifiers, which you also see the responsiveness view, right? Then we would do something like shadow. So when I say shadow, it will automatically create a shadow which might not be just visible just yet. So I can just give it a shadow of large. You can see now the shadow appears up there. But that was it. Earlier in the Tailwind earlier versions, that was the only thing you could do. But now, you just center this host. But now you can, this is the margin of 8 or 12, so that we have a little bit of gap. But now you can, in Tailwind CSS3, also give color of the shadow. So the way you do that is you just say shadow and the color, in this case indigo, and then the intensity of that color, right? So you can see it's 500 right now, but it appears like it's too thick of a color. So in order to control the opacity, you have to give a slash and then the percentage of opacity. So let's say I just want 90% opacity, right? So this is like 90% of the original shadow. If I give it 10, then this is like 10% of the original shadow, which is pretty much like non-existent. So let's just give it close to like 50%. And this will give a nice shadow effect. What you can also do is on hover, let's say you want the shadow to become a bit more intense at 80% opacity. So when I hover over this, you can see the shadow increases, which is pretty awesome. Now just to complete the demo, you can also play around with the font size and font semi-bold, just to give it a little bit of bold area, bold text, and you have got a nice stripe button, subscribe with stripe. And obviously, this is something which you can copy paste anywhere on your website. And this button would render exactly like this as long as you're using Tailwind. So this is the magic of shadows and Tailwind in general. Pretty awesome if you ask me. And now, this shadow could look pretty amazing on.
रुक जाओ लिखने तो दो। रुक जाओ। अच्छा जी, कलर शैडो टेलविंड जो है वो सपोर्ट करने लगी है अब टेलविंड 3 के वर्जन में, ऐसा ही कुछ मेहुल भैया ने बोला। और शैडो शैडो डेकोरेशन इंडिगो फॉन्ट एक्स्ट्रा बोल्ड।
Different sort of backgrounds as well. So if you have a dark background for the body, you can see it can have a nice little text of 100, the text color, and a nice strike button over here, right? So yep, that's pretty much it. How you can create shadows in Tailwind CSS and how you work with a lot of this stuff, a lot of buttons and a lot of classes. I think we have done this for the first time, having so many classes of a single element, but that's you get used to that stuff. So that's pretty much it for this video. I'm gonna see you in the next one really soon.
The button should have shadow of medium size। shadow medium कर देंगे पहले बटन में, यही बटन है। सब्सक्राइब टू कॉन्टैक्ट प्रो का बटन है ये, इसमें आइकन भी लगाया नहीं, आइकन की क्लास भी दी हुई है। सही हो गया, ये आइकन है वैसे अच्छी तरह सेट हो सकता है। इमेजेस को भी उठाओ, उसको उस बटन के ऊपर रखो और उसको छोटा कर दो। अच्छा जी, यहाँ पे इसको देना है शेडो। shadow should be of medium size। shadow MD शेडो एनडी होना चाहिए बटन शेडो कलर should be purple for 300 shade and an opacity of 50 और इसको शेडो को पर्पल होना चाहिए पर्पल 500 500 with 300 और 300 कैपेसिटी इसकी करते हैं 50 आनी चाहिए पर्पल की कैपेसिटी वो आ गया पीछे इसके on hover the shadow opacity should increase to 90 of the same color of shade 300 चाहिए hover पे शैडो आ जाना चाहिए पर्पल 300 बाय 80 90 है ये 90 ये 90 टिशू 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 गुड नाइस रन टेस्ट करते हैं उम्मीद करते हैं कि हमने पास कर लिया है शुक्र अल्हम्दुलिल्लाह या अल्लाह तेरा शुक्र है
Hey everyone, welcome back. And in this video, let's just go ahead and discuss about the CSS typography with Tailwind, which is also an important thing because most of the part of the website is actually text. So let's start with the regular H1 tag over here. And if you have not observed it yet, when you do Tailwind, you're going to see that you automatically use the ability of nice font sizes, which the browser provides, which is not exactly very nice. But you can see here H1, H2, H3 all are of same font size and same font weight and so on. Because Tailwind wants you to explicitly style them according to your layouts or whatever your need is, and provides you with a rich set of classes to do that. So font family, starting with font family, I'm just going to cover a few important ones. You can see that you can specify a particular font directly with whatever is available inside of Tailwind. And of course, you can add more fonts later down the line as well with configuration, which we'll talk about a bit later in the advanced section. But mostly, you would not be setting or hovering, changing fonts on home, right? Fonts once set for a website is usually set. So we're going to be moving on to font size, which is super important, and this is what you'll be using all the time. So you can see that Tailwind gives you the variants from extra small all the way up to 9XL, which is 8 rems, 0.75 rems to 8 rems, right, which is the default system. So usually you would obviously have something like text 4XL for a heading, then maybe text 3XL for an H2, and so on, right? That is up to you. So let's start with a single H1. Let's say going down frogs, syntax, whatever that is, because it includes all the alphabets, if I don't know the alphabets. So specifying a text font size actually increases the size of the text, which is awesome. Why do you need that? The font style is something like you can set it to italic or non-italic, depending on what you want. Again, just you have to write a single keyword. Font weight allows you to set a weight. That means how thick the font should be. So you can see the equivalence of this is actually the font weight of CSS. And this will only work well if you have imported the correct fonts with the correct weights. Most of the fonts sometimes don't have all the variants, so the browser sometimes tries to make up for that. So make sure, yeah, if you're looking at custom fonts, make sure you have imported the correct weights of the font. So for example, take a look here. If I do font extra light, over here you're going to see that this is much more thin compared to what the default was, right? And if I say font extra bold, this becomes much more thicker than what it was, right? So depending on what kind of heading you have, you might want extra bold at some places and extra light at other places. So again, this is something you can pick up with the help of Tailwind. Then of course you have basic utilities like text aligning as center. So if you give a text center to this, it will center your text instead of just writing another part of CSS manually. So that all sorts of alignments and stuff is there. Text color, you can see that it specifies text white and all the colors which you have already seen in the current color palette. So that is awesome. So you can just pick up any sort of style and you can see the moment you apply it, turns the style into that color. Similarly, if we move over to text decoration, you're going to see this kind of is a new feature, how you customize the text decoration color in Tailwind CSS3. So if I just copy, let's say this one over here, and paste it right here, you see it'll underline it, and then this is a play of 800. It'll underline it, and it'll underline it nicely, right? You can see the cues in the sentence don't get cut off, so that looks good. And on top of this, you can also specify the style of the decoration. So you can see you have a bunch of styles. You can have a double decoration. You can have a solid decoration, which is the default style. If you opt into double, you can see you get something like this. You can also have a wavy style, which is something like if you want to show a grammatical mistake or a sentence, something like that, you can do that. That's also pretty awesome. You can have a dashed decoration, dotted decoration, and so on. So it's almost like whatever you can do with a border, kind of thing you can do over here. And similarly, like, this can be applied on hover. So that's pretty awesome as well. So if I hover over this, you can see it changes its style. That's awesome. So these utilities over here is pretty much a lot of what you will need along the way: the font size, the type, the decoration, the colors, the alignment, the thickness, and basically how you want it to present can be done with all of these utilities in Tailwind CSS. I'm gonna keep this short and until this point.
Okay.
That's all for this one. I will see you in the next video very soon.
यार ये जो इनका पढ़ाने का स्टाइल है ना, ये बेस्ट है राहुल भैया का। अभी तक जितने मैंने देखे हैं ना, हम इसको 1.5 इसलिए करके देख रहे हैं क्योंकि हमने टेलविंड का ना हैरी भाई का कोर्स भी देखा हुआ है। वो आप पिछली वीडियोस जो है ना, आपको पता ही है। फिर आपको करके बात कर रहा हूँ, यहाँ पे कौन सा कोई है, हम ही हैं अभी तो। अच्छा जी, द साइज शुड बी एक्सेसिबल एंड द टेक्स्ट शुड बी अलाइन टू सेंटर। H1 का पकड़ो इसको, और इसको टेक्स्ट सेक्शन नहीं हुआ। साथ में डॉक्यूमेंटेशन भी ओपन कर ही लेते हैं। सर हमारे पास कौन सा डॉक्यूमेंटेशन नहीं है। टाइपोग्राफी, डॉक्स, और साइज, टेक्स्ट 2XL आएगा। XXL नहीं, XXL तो है ही नहीं। खाना बड़ा हो गया। अच्छा जी, एंड शुड बी लाइन टू सेंटर, टेक्स्ट सेंटर भी होगा। टेक्स्ट शुड हैव वन डबल अंडरलाइन। अच्छा जी, यहाँ पे जाते हैं और टेक्स्ट, फॉन्ट स्टाइल, फॉन्ट वेट, लेटर स्पेसिंग, लाइन हाइट, स्टाइल, टेक्स्ट लाइन में आएगा। टेक्स्ट सेंटर, लेफ्ट, राइट और जस्टिफाई। तो इन्होंने हमें क्या बोला, टेक्स्ट शुड हैव डबल अलाइन टू सेंटर। तो टेक्स्ट सेंटर, सेंटर स्पेलिंग क्या लिखेंगे, टेक्स्ट सेंटर चला गया सेंटर में। और टेक्स्ट शुड हैव एन डबल अंडरलाइन। तो अंडरलाइन करके भी कुछ था, डबल लगा के नहीं, कुछ नहीं लगा। चले अंदर जाकर देख लेते हैं। टेक्स्ट डेकोरेशन, टेक्स्ट डेकोरेशन में मेरे ख्याल से वो देखा, ये अंडरलाइन, ओवरलाइन, लाइन थ्रू और अंडरलाइन। ये अंडरलाइन है तो अंडरलाइन, अंडरलाइन, लाइन थ्रू। टेक्स्ट डेकोरेशन स्टाइल में डेकोरेशन सॉलिड, डेकोरेशन डबल, डेकोरेशन। अच्छा, डेकोरेशन लिखेंगे अंडरलाइन। तो डेकोरेशन में से पता है कि यानी कि नीचे लाइन ही लगानी है। अंडरलाइन, अगर हम सिंपल अंडरलाइन लिखेंगे ना तो कुछ आएगा अंडरलाइन। अंडरलाइन पे एक लाइन आ रही है, और अगर हमने दो लगानी है तो नहीं। काका इतने ज़्यादा पेजेस आप ज़ाया कर रही हो मेरे। नहीं, अब नहीं दूंगा, आप अपनी कॉपी लेके आओ। क्या था, डबल करने के लिए डेकोरेशन, डबल डेकोरेशन डबल, डेकोरेशन डबल आई नहीं। मेरे ख्याल से अंडरलाइन भी तो लिखना पड़ेगा ना, अंडरलाइन सही सही सही, ले लो। लिखोगी किस पे? अब अपनी अपनी कलरिंग बुक लेके आओ, जाओ शाबाश। नहीं करो। A text should have an double underline. On hover the text color, the text color should change to pink of 500. hover पे क्या टेक्स्ट कलर, आपको नाना बात दे रही है, टेक्स्ट आ जाए पिंक 500। बाबूजी लिखना है। ओए नहीं करो काके यार, मेरा नया पेज है, आप खराब कर दोगी ऐसे तो। वन नहीं लिखना आपने यहाँ पे। सेट द फॉन्ट ऑफ द H1 टू मोनो फॉन्ट। अच्छा फॉन्ट साइज भी है, फॉन्ट साइज सबसे फॉन्ट फैमिली का ये फॉन्ट मोनो कर देना इसको मैं, फॉन्ट मोनो। फॉन्ट चेंज हो गया मोनो। काके चली जा, काम कर लेने दे मुझे। एक पेज नहीं दूंगा, मेरे नोट्स खराब हो जाते हैं फिर ऐसे। ओए सलमान, 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 सलमान भाई बोलो आप। सलमान यार इसे कॉपी दो कोई इसकी जो है, किधर है इसकी कॉपी, वो कलरिंग वाली जो है। इसे कॉपी दो कोई इसकी जो है, किधर है इसकी कॉपी, वो कलरिंग वाली जो है, जो इसकी जिस पे कलर करती है वो दो ना इसको। अच्छा जाओ। हाँ ये ले, एक कैब मुझे दे दो, वो ले जाओ। कैब दे दो इधर, कैब गुम कर दोगी यार। चलो जाओ ले। हाँ जी जाओ ले जाओ, पेंसिल ले जाओ, मैं बाद में ले लूंगा आपसे।
Hey everyone, welcome back. And in this video, let's just go ahead and discuss about functionality in Tailwind CSS, which was only possible because of just-in-time compiler introduced in the last version. And now it seems like an no-brainer a lot of times when you want to opt out of the default styling mechanisms. So what dynamic styling in Tailwind means is that instead of sometimes what happens is that the default styles which Tailwind provides are not enough, right? Whether that's maybe a 1 pixel margin which you wanted to give, or a custom font size, or a custom color, or something which you wanted to give which is not available, and you don't want to go into your CSS files or mess around with that, what you can do is instead use these placeholders with properties. That is like one way to go about it. So if I give something like 200 pixel, and remember that I'm doing this inside these square brackets, what Tailwind would do is that it will try to infer what the property did earlier. For example, this property did margin top, and there used to be the value for this particular property, right? So instead of the value, it found that, hey, I have this weird square syntax. This means that this is a dynamic property. This means whatever the value is inside this is actually the style which should be generated. So if you open this in a new tab and take a look under the code, you're going to see the style which is generated, the class name which is generated over here is a dynamic class of .margin top of 200 pixels. This is the class which you use, but the style is pretty much the same thing which you use. Right? Similarly, you can have the EL, for example, doesn't matter what you want. And refresh, you're going to see it's going to generate the same class as your class name.
चलो बस ये दे दो।
This is pretty awesome. Why? Because it allows you to opt out of Tailwind's default boundaries. Although it should not be used pretty much with every single style because then it's default to the Tailwind, but it should be used out of Tailwind style. This is pretty awesome. Why? Because it allows you to opt out of Tailwind's default boundaries. Although it should not be used pretty much with every single style because then it's default to the Tailwind, but sometimes it's a great escape hatch. Right? For example, I want to give a custom color to body. So instead of going all the way, to config files or CSS panel, what I can do is something like this, where I just specify, I think I don't know, black color. FB was the one. Yeah, not sure. So for example, let's just have a background of black, something like which is a little bit nicer or a little bit less black. 3E. So I can have a 3E, 3E, 3E as a dynamic background color. And this will just do how it works. I don't have to have color or mess around with my CSS and so on. Similarly for text, I can have a 72 pixel as a size and it will just work how it works. Like I say, it's more of a like a replacement of an existing value and Tailwind would understand it how it works. So this is pretty awesome and pretty amazing. Which scale value all sorts of values. So this is one way of having a property which Tailwind already knows and assigning it a custom value. In Tailwind CSS3, there is another way of having a completely dynamic property and value div. So you can see in the dynamic of the Tailwind docs, it actually says that you can pretty much throw in a full utility, the full property and the value pair, and it will just make it work. Right? So if you want to try it out, what you can do is something like background and then the same color, just like that. And it should still work. And yep, it does work. So this is pretty awesome, right? You can have a black background over here. So at this point, you are literally just writing CSS, but in a way which is combined with Tailwind, right? So you can have background there, display, flex, something like that, and it will just work for everything. So not just flex, I think that won't be visible very much. Opacity 0.5, and then when we say on forward, opacity is 1. So again, this is like an escape hatch, which works pretty awesome, but you should probably not use it because Tailwind also already has support for opacity and opacity grid like this. So try to not use the escape hatches if they are not grid would be a good option as well. So yep, I mean, but if you want to do that, just letting you know, this is completely fair, completely possible, and completely valid in Tailwind CSS version. So yeah, that's pretty much it for this video. I hope you understood something. That is all for this one. I'll see you in the next video pretty soon.
असर की नमाज का भी टाइम हो गया. Add a background color to hash 2C2 of Control C करेंगे. बैकग्राउंड कलर टू बॉडी टैग, इसको बॉडी टैग करेंगे PG. Yeah. See the letter spacing. Set the letter spacing to 3 pixels for the HTML element. Letter spacing. लेटर स्पेसिंग कैसे देते हैं जी, अभी जाके देख लेते हैं. पैडिंग मार्जिन बिटवीन लेटर स्पेसिंग आएगा कहीं पर. लेटर स्पेसिंग अच्छा जी. लेटर स्पेसिंग के लिए ट्रैकिंग का मतलब लिखते हैं. तो ट्रैकिंग टाइटल वगैरह होता है, ट्रैकिंग ट्रैकिंग वाइडर करके देखते हैं, फिर कर भी रहा है काम वाइडर हुआ कुछ ट्रैकिंग वाइड ट्रैकिंग वाइड हो रहा। तो इसको हमने ट्रैकिंग को कर देना है 3 पिक्सल 3 पिक्सल और आ गया इसके अंदर 3 पिक्सल जीनियस। अप्लाई डायरेक्टिव का हमने लिखा हुआ, अप्लाई डायरेक्टिव क्या होता है? अप्लाई डायरेक्टिव भी यानी कि फाइल ही है। use at the rate of apply to inline any existing utility classes into your own custom CSS, यानी कि अगर हम कुछ अपनी उसके अंदर कुछ लिखना चाहें तो हम जाके at the rate of apply डायरेक्टिव में लिख सकते हैं। This is useful when you need to write custom CSS, like to write the style in a third-party library, but still want to work with your design token and use the same syntax you are used to using in your HTML. Now select to drop down or the rate of apply along with यानी कि हम उसको बार बार लिखने के लिए लिख सकते हैं वो हम उसको यानी कि इसके अंदर जो जो भी हमने लिखा है, बैकग्राउंड भी लार्ज कर दो, राउंडेड कर दो, शेडो मीडियम कर दो, तो हम इस एक वर्ड से उसको लिख सकते हैं। यही था मेरे ख्याल से अप्लाई डायरेक्टिव। कॉन्फिग फाइल में तो वैसे वो कॉन्फिग करते हैं, मैं जाके चेंज करता हूँ। Now you can add the class, select to drop down to apply the class ही यानी कि चेंज कर सकता है। तो वो चीज़ें यानी कि वो पूरी की पूरी HTML को अप्लाई कर देंगी। ठीक है ना? मेरा नोट्स भी है और ये साथ लिखा हुआ क्यों नहीं आ रहा कि ये हो रहा है कि नहीं हो रहा, आ रहा। अप्लाई डायरेक्टिव क्लियर डायरेक्टिव था और अप्लाई डायरेक्टिव। अगर किसी एलिमेंट में हमने बहुत सारी यूटिलिटी क्लासेस लिख दी हैं और हम इस एलिमेंट को रीयूज़ करना चाहते हैं तो हम style.css की फाइल में एक क्लास बना सकते हैं और फिर इस क्लास को रीयूज़ कर सकते हैं। मेन फाइल में भी बस btn ही लिख देंगे। सही सही। हम टेलविंड कंपोनेंट्स और टेलविंड यूटिलिटीज़ के बीच में लिखेंगे। किसी भी क्लास को बदलना चाहें, थोड़ा सा लॉक करना चाहें तो टेलविंड यूटिलिटी क्लास के बाद में आए और हम उनका एलिमेंट की क्लास को लिख कर चेंज कर दें, क्योंकि जो चीज़ बाद में होगी ऑर्डर मैटर्स। अप्लाई डायरेक्टिव। चलो index.html की फाइल में आ गए हैं। योर h1 एलिमेंट शुड कंटेन द सुपर क्लास। अच्छा जी, सुपर क्लास use at the rate of applying the super class and give background color of b black। अप्लाई डायरेक्टिव तो मेरे ख्याल से बस फाइल ही दूसरी होती है, उसके अंदर जाके अप्लाई डायरेक्टिव। चाहिए ऊपर सुपर है सही। सुपर के अंदर हमने रख दिया सुपर की क्लास है, इसको हम सेट करेंगे एट द रेट ऑफ। हम लिखते हैं एट द रेट ऑफ अप्लाई At the rate of apply apply derivate to a directive with apply directive apply directive या directive derivate लिखा हुआ है देख लेते हैं at the rate of functions and apply directives सिर्फ apply लिखेंगे apply और क्या है जी super give background color of black apply में हमने कर देना है bg black करना bg black bg black and apply that to the super and give text color of white text को कर देना है हमने white वाली क्लास को हमने कॉल कर देना है यहाँ पे बेसिकली ऐसे है कि अगर हमने यानी कि एक ही स्टाइल को ना कितनी टैग्स में यूज़ करना है तो हम सारों में बार बार वो लिखने की बजाय वैसे तो हम कॉपी पेस्ट भी कर सकते हैं लेकिन वो कोड को ज़रा साफ करने के लिए ये है कि एक ऊपर क्लास अपनी बना लो स्टाइल और CSS के अंदर जाके उसमें ये अप्लाई डायरेक्टिव ऐसे करके जो करना उधर कर दो फिर यही स्टाइल और CSS के अंदर जाके उसमें ये अप्लाई डायरेक्टिव ऐसे करके जो करना उधर कर दो फिर यही कॉल बस इधर करते जाओ तो देखो यहाँ पे सुपर क्लास आ गई है तो यानी कि अब हम कोई और H2 H3 H4 H5 है उसमें सारा कुछ बैकग्राउंड ब्लैक और टेक्स्ट वाइट करने की बजाय सुपर ही लिख देंगे तो काम बन जाएगा हमारा लेकिन मेन तो यही चीज़ है ना फिर वही काम हो जाएगा जो CSS में होता है उसको करो हमने तो बनाई टेलविंड इसीलिए कि उसके अंदर से हम सामने ही रहते हुए कर लें टेलविंड कॉन्फ़िग मेरे ख्याल से ये होता है कि कॉन्फ़िग की फाइल में जाके चेंज करता है
Hey everyone, welcome back. And in this video, I want to show you how you can use everyone, welcome back. And in this video, I want to show you how you can use Tailwind CSS with that is pretty much what you'll be doing in this loading path on along. This loading path on along because we have chosen React as a technology. We have chosen React as a technology. So in order to use Tailwind with React, you have to set it up according to what your environment is. For example, if I have React Playground and CodeDAM, at least for now, we use something known as Snowpack as a bundler instead of Create React app because it's a bit faster. If you're running it in a Create React app locally, then you have to follow a bit differently. If you're running it on Next.js, there's a little bit of different procedure and so on. So if you go to Tailwind CSS installation section under docs path, you're going to see you have multiple options. We have been going so far with the Play CDN, which is not optimal for production and fine for just having a little bit of experimentation. What you want is go into this frameworks guide and pick up whatever framework you are using. In this case, we are using React, not on server side, but on client side, and that also with Snowpack. So I'm just going to follow this quick client side, and that also with Snowpack. So I'm just going to follow this quick Snowpack guide, which in a Snowpack, not on server side, but on client side, and that also with Snowpack. So I'm just going to follow this quick Snowpack guide with React, not on server side, but on client side, and that also with Snowpack. So I'm just going to follow this quick Snowpack guide, which in essence is pretty much similar to what your Create React app guide, which in essence is pretty much similar to what your Create React app guide would be. So you're going to fire up a second terminal and start writing these commands. If you want to follow along, you can do the same thing in the code playground. At least we are still using the Snowpack bundle. You can see that we're using Snowpack because of the Snowpack keyword. So I'm going to install this. Next thing which we need from the Snowpack bundler is the configuration part. So we can do something like yarn tailwind init, I believe. And you can see it has created a tailwind config class, but not it has created a tailwind config class, but not a Snowpack, not a post CSS config.js. Let's go ahead and create that ourselves. Post CSS config.js. JS, and over here in this file, I'm just going to keep it like this. Specify the content part. This is a little bit older configuration, Tailwind version 2. In Tailwind version 3, you just have to specify the content part of all you want to have. So I'm just going to copy it instead. So right here, we need, what we want to say is that look inside the SRC folder, and anything you find with JS or JSX, just try to extract out Tailwind style and apply. That's what we are saying. And yep, that is pretty much it in the setup. And finally, it says us in the Snowpack configuration, we have to add this as in dev options. So let's go to Snowpack, and over here, you can see inside dev options, we have to add this Tailwind config. And inside the plugins, we have to add the Snowpack plugin over here. There we go. Finally, we have to go to the public global CSS in this case. If that is not a file, then we'll create that global CSS, import the tail utilities inside our index.html. Okay, once we have done all of this, hopefully when we restart our server for Snowpack, it should pick up our table. So for this, what I'm going to do is I'm going to say inside a subset folder, I'm going to remove all the CSS files, right? Including this global.css. I'm going to just close this. Inside app, I'm going to remove this, refresh this. Even inside index.js, let's remove this file, refresh this. And for global.css, it says that's not found. There we go. Okay, so now you can see that global.css is not being overwritten. And okay, now I can go back to app.jsx, remove this app class, and try to write bg gray of 800. Okay, so data setup, move the global.css file in the src folder, and this index file now includes the global file. So now what we can do is do all sorts of Tailwind CSS stuff which we did back in the CSS tutorials, and whatever we do, it will automatically start reflecting it in our React playground. So, yep, that's pretty much it. That's how you will set up your Tailwind CSS thing in a React-based playground. The fun part of this is you don't have to reload, so that's awesome. But it will automatically minify and take out all the things, all the required things from your React JSX files thanks to the configure, the content property which you have specified over here. So that's all for this one. In the next video, let's explore a bit about this configuration file as well. Hey everyone, welcome back. In this video, let's just quickly discuss about dark mode configuration option in Tailwind and what does that mean. So in tailwind.config.js, you would see that there is nothing over here, but what you can do is add an option known as dark mode of class. So the moment you do this, what's going to happen is that now, wherever you specify dark mode styles in Tailwind, you can make them toggle just with a click of a button. And let me show you how that's done. We have this page over here, which has a couple of dark mode classes. You can see I have a dark selector, then I'm specifying the background, and I have a dark selector, and I'm specifying a text color. By default, if I did not have this dark mode class, it would automatically show me dark mode. Why? Because my system is in dark mode. So what Tailwind does is that it prefers the scheme of the system. So if I did not have this class dark mode over here, and if I just wrote these couple of styles and start from the server, I would have the dark background. But because I wrote class, that means whenever I add a dark class at the top of all of these where the dark class is applied, dark selector is applied, then only it comes true. Right? If I remove that, it goes away. So in order to create a simple, toggle button, all you have to do is import a use state. From here, you can say x, set x, for the lack of a better word, I cannot think right now. And you can say that if x is true, then dark, otherwise no class. And by default, you can see we start with a false. I can say on click on this div itself, I just toggle the x, right? So whenever I click on this div, you can see it turns from light mode to dark mode and vice versa. And the fun part about this is you can pretty much apply any sort of styles. So you can say p class dark x to xl, and it will just start working automatically. So just give it a second for the styles to propagate and make sure you have the correct name over here as the attribute name. And as you can see, when I click on this now, it increases the font size. So you can pretty much customize your website as you like in the dark mode. And whenever you toggle it on your button, it will operate just fine. So yeah, that's pretty much it for this video. Hopefully you were able to learn something new, something interesting about dark mode with this one.
Nice.
That is all for this one, and we'll see you in the next video really soon.
अच्छा इसमें डार्क मोड में होना डार्क एक क्लास ऐड
Hey everyone,
कर
welcome back.
देंगे
In this video, let's just quickly discuss about dark mode configuration option in Tailwind and what does that mean. So tailwind.config.
tailwind concept.js के अंदर
JS, you would see that there is nothing over here. But what we can do is add an option known as dark mode of class. So the moment you do this, what's going to happen is that now, wherever you specify dark mode styles in Tailwind, you can make them toggle just with a click of a button. And let me show you how that's done. We have this page over here, which has a couple of dark mode classes. You can see I have a dark selector, and then I'm specifying dark mode, and I have a dark selector, and I'm specifying text color. By default, if I did not have this dark mode class, it would automatically show me dark mode. Why? Because my system is in dark mode. So what Tailwind does is that it prefers the scheme of the system. So if I did not have this class dark mode over here, and if I just wrote these couple of styles and start from my server, I would have the dark background. But because I wrote class, that means whenever I add a dark class at the top of all of these where the dark class is applied, dark selector is applied, then only it gets true. Right? If I remove that, it goes away. So in order to create a simple toggle button, all you have to do is import a new state. From here, you can say x, set x, for lack of a better word, I cannot think right now. And you can say that if x is true, then dot, otherwise no class. And by default, you can see we start with a false. And I can say on click on this div itself, I just toggle the x, right? So whenever I click on this div, you can see it turns from light mode to dark mode and vice versa. And the fun part about this is you can pretty much apply any sort of styles. So you can say p class dark x to XL, and it will just start working automatically. So just give it a second for this to make sure you have the correct name over here as the attribute name. And as you can see, when I click on this now, it increases the font size. So you can pretty much customize your website as you like in the dark mode. And whenever you toggle it or it will update just fine. So yeah, that's pretty much it for this video. Hopefully you were able to learn something new, something interesting about dark mode in this one. That is all for this one. I will see you in the next video very soon. Hey everyone, welcome back.
हो गया, अब आगे भी तो चलो। क्या करना है, ध्यान करने में मतलब।
In the next video, we'll see.
ये देख रहे हैं, ये सबसे अच्छी चीज़ है गोल्डन की, यूट्यूब से भी अच्छी। यहाँ पे हमें सर्टिफिकेशन भी मिलता है और हम इसको शो भी कर सकते हैं अपने लिंक्डइन पे भी, और अपने पास डाउनलोड भी कर सकते हैं। तो हम यही करेंगे, पहले इसको डाउनलोड करेंगे। डाउनलोड करेंगे हम इसको अपने में जाएंगे। चलो भाई, क्या हो गया, सर्टिफिकेशन में जाएंगे। कोड डैम की सर्टिफिकेशन ये देख रहे हैं, पहले वाली भी है हमारे पास। तो हम इसको ऐसा थोड़ी रखेंगे, इसका नाम भी तो चेंज करेंगे। रखेंगे टेलविंड कर लेंगे इसको बंद कर देंगे और इसी वाले को हम प्रोफाइल में भी कर देंगे। ऐसा यार हमारा क्यों ना शो कर। इसकी अभी हमने कुछ यानी कि वो रखी हुई है और पोस्ट पोस्ट करें, देख कोई भी सकता है लेकिन अभी तुम्हारी कोई नहीं कर सकता। इधर हम लिखते हैं वन स्टेप एट ए टाइम, वन स्टेप एट ए टाइम, वन स्टेप एट ए टाइम। पोस्ट भी कर लेते हैं, मैं आपको दिखा देते हैं हमारा लिंक्डइन कैसा नजर आ रहा है। लिंक्डइन कभी कभी सेट करेंगे, अभी जॉब के लिए भी तो अप्लाई करना है ना। ये देखिए हमारा सर्टिफिकेशन आ गया इसके अंदर। नाइस स्टेप। चलिए इसको बंद करते हैं, इसको भी बंद करते हैं, इसको भी बंद करते हैं, इसको क्या करें। बस ठीक है, हो गया, आगे चलो। देखते हैं क्या हो गया हमारी। अब ये जो है ना क्वेरी वाला, ये हम कर लेंगे बाद में क्योंकि ये फ्री है। अब हमने करना है एडवांस रिएक्ट और एडवांस रिएक्ट कॉन्सेप्ट, और ये 5 रिएक्ट प्रोजेक्ट, ये 3 पूरे करने की कोशिश करनी है। ये इन आने वाले दिनों में, कितने दिन है मेरे पास, आज एक दिन हो गया था हमारा। आज रात को बैठेंगे, एडवांस रिएक्ट देखेंगे, 24 लेक्चर है, कुछ ना कुछ तो कर ही लेंगे इंशाल्लाह ताला। 2 दिन है अभी हमारे पास फ्री वाले प्रो वर्जन के, तो ये प्रो वाले कोर्सेज को ख़त्म करने की कोशिश करते हैं। फिर एडवांस थ्योरेटिकल जावास्क्रिप्ट है, ये तो फ्री है, ये भी तो बाद में देख लेंगे। इसके बाद फिर हमारा टेस्ट एंड स्किल एवेलुएशन आ जाएगी, टेस्टिंग कोड विद साइप्रस, पता नहीं क्या है ये। बैकएंड आ जाएगा, बैकएंड में अभी हमारा इतना इंटरेस्ट है नहीं, लेकिन फिर भी देख लेंगे जो जो इसमें चीज़ें फ्री होंगी। बैकएंड तो अभी फ्री है गया। प्रोडक्शन रेडी practices, advanced next.js, build a production है विद next.js, ये भी देखेंगे। नेक्स्ट डॉट जेएस का। तो अभी हम इसको बंद करते हैं, लाइव स्ट्रीम भी ख़त्म करते हैं। ओके जी, अल्लाह हाफिज़ एंड